Hey everyone, Scott Hansen here from NFL Red Zone, and you're watching the Super Fantasy Bros podcast. 1 hour of commercial-free podcasting starts now. Enjoy the show.
And as a reminder, before we do get started, next Monday, we'll be doing our live draft for the Beat the Super Fantasy Bros Redraft League. So make sure you are back next Monday for sure. But let's get into it. We got a lot of running backs to talk about. So let's do this.
Yeah.
Similar to last week, let's start with your overall strategy when it comes to running backs. In the first round, how big of a must is it to snag a running back?
Lock him up.
I don't think I've ever drafted anything but a running back in the first round. Honestly, I don't think I have ever done that.
Wow.
Have to. Unless you have like last pick of the first round, you can get away with taking a receiver right before a running back just to be a little cute with it.
I hate the no RB strat. I hate it. I don't get it.
I've tried it in a couple mocks. Has not worked out in my favor. I absolutely hated
it.
My
doesn't work.
backs.
Q, I dare you to try it this year.
I've done it, and like I was gonna stick to that, but like then I've tried other ways. Obviously, now I'm just like 50-50, not even 50-50, but I've seen people even do like wide receiver. Like they just went wide receiver crazy to where like their flex was DK and they had like Diggs and Devontae Adams, and the running backs were like Pollard and like maybe AJ Dillon, maybe someone a little lower than that, which could work because your receivers are just that top heavy. But I don't know. I guess it just depends on where you are in the first round.
I feel like the best running back I've gotten as my RB1 doing the no RB strat is maybe like Breece Hall or like Gibson.
Yeah, you're getting, because you're waiting at least until round 3 at the minimum, and even then you're not even doing like the 0 RB theory. Like those guys usually take it like round 5 or 6.
All right,
Like
that's
just stack
wild.
up on wide receiver, grab an elite tight end, and then grab your first running back.
There were mocks where I was doing wide receiver, and just because I won Herbert, I would take Herbert in the 3rd, and then I would go running back next. That would be like the 4th, and I'd get like maybe Gibson or Etienne, maybe if I went Gibson or if I didn't take Herbert. But you have to accept that you're gonna get mediocre for your running backs.
Yeah, I think it's a big risk. Obviously, you're just banking on finding the diamond in the rough waiver running back, or that the starting running back that you're drafting the handcuff to ends up getting hurt. Or maybe you do grab Kareem Hunt or something and he ends up getting traded. But either way, there's a lot of risk with a 0 RB theory because that RB1 is one of the most important positions to have someone consistent and solid, in my opinion. But I'm not afraid to go wide receiver in the first round. I typically go running back for the most part, but when you get to that later half of the first round, wide receivers just end up looking so juicy at that point.
Yeah, I do
Somehow
agree.
It worked out for K-Harp 2 years ago when he had wide receiver, and then his running backs were Jonathan Taylor, rookie year, and Antonio Gibson.
Yep.
That's just the one diamond in the rough, I guess.
Yeah, I think if you are going 0 RB theory, my goal would be to get young running backs, ones that are being a little bit slept on, that still could pop into that because they're just an unknown talent. We don't know if they're going to be elite or not. We don't know if Breece Hall is going to be an RB1 or a bust. So like, I'd rather take my risk on someone like that if I'm going all in on wide receivers than taking like a safe Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like, it's not safe. That's a terrible pick. You know what I mean?
Gross.
But either way, running backs for the most part should be your target in the first round, at least for the first few picks. What pick do you consider stopping taking running back?
5. Oh, well, yeah. What do you mean? Like in the first round?
In the first round.
7.
Like number 1, number 2, number 3,
7.
most likely running backs.
I'd say like 5 because right there, after like the top 4 is gone, Cooper Kupp and Justin Jefferson, they look very juicy.
I have it right now as number 3. I'm taking a wide receiver.
Oh my God.
I
hope
wouldn't
you get
hate
30.
you for it.
I'm taking Jefferson at that point, but we'll talk about that more on the wide receiver.
I mean, Sean's taking Mixon at 3.
I'm not. I
Mixon's
moved
taking
Jefferson
Sean.
over him. I've been doing drafts where I'm like, dude, it just feels like a better squad if I take the wide receiver at that point, like the elite wide receiver, because you can get good running backs in that 2nd and 3rd turn if you have an early pick like that. But we'll talk about wide receivers next week. Let's continue with our running back rankings and get into the thick of it here. Start at the top. of our running back rankings, Jonathan Taylor seems to be the consensus number one across the board. Do we all have him ranked at number one?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's obvious. We saw what he did last year with the Colts, touchdown machine. He's the focal point of that offense. He's going to get the majority of the work. It's going to be a workhorse. And the reason I have him at one again is they may not repeat at number one, but I think he's the safest bet to be a top 5 running back out of anyone in the league right now.
I agree.
Consensus number 2 seems to still be Christian McCaffrey, with people saying he should still be number 1. Where do you guys have him ranked, and how nervous are you about drafting him this season?
I have him at 7 because I'm nothing but nervous of drafting him.
I have him at 5, and I honestly could move 2 people above him.
I have him
him
at
at 6.
2?
Q. 2.
2.
All right.
I don't think
He was
Eckler's.
back in.
I love Eckler. 20 touchdowns is a lot. I don't think he's going to repeat that. And I'm not going to say anything about injury because this guy's all about injury. But when he played last year, the 4 games that he played, he was like running back 1, running back 3 again, or 2, and then 4. So he had top 5 finishes every game that he played, which is insane. And like, it's funny. Sometimes we use like, this guy's on a bad team, don't draft him running back wise, but like every year he's been on a bad team and he's just been elite. I don't think the quarterbacks are any upgrade to like make him play any worse. I mean, if anything, Baker's better than who he's ever, besides Cam, is better than any quarterback that he's played with. So obviously there's a big risk. I don't know if I have the cojones to take him at number 2, but he should be the consensus number 2. And I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes running back 1. As much as I love JT.
If you're not confident enough to take him at 2, he shouldn't be 2.
All right, well, give me 2 then. I'll grow the balls by my birthday. So it'll be I'll take him at 2.
Okay.
I hope so.
Me too.
Yeah.
I hope I have
Take
3.
the headache away from me.
Yeah, 2 is just, I don't know. There's different types of people that draft in fantasy. There's ones that are like, let's swing for the fences. He has the most upside. I'm going for it all in the first round. It doesn't matter. Like if you could guarantee he's fully healthy, you probably take him at number 1 consensus no matter what. But I'm one that stays maybe a little bit more risk averse. Like I'd rather avoid the guy that's been injured like the majority of the last 2 seasons and take someone that's been healthier and also just been a solid, consistent guy. So that's why I don't have him at 2. That's why I put him at 6. I just put guys that I feel like are a little bit safer in my book above him. That's the only reason I don't have him that high.
Matt Berry said you can't lose your league in the first round, or you can't win your league in the first round, but you can lose it in the first round. And I guess if CMC were to get hurt and that's your first pick, then yeah, you definitely would be screwed.
And the worst part about CMC is like there's no clear-cut handcuff. It's not like you're drafting Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt where Nick Chubb goes down, you'll be just fine. You're at that running back position.
Chuba
or
sucks.
maybe like Tony Pollard for Zeke, like Chuba and Donta Foreman, and like that backfield's a little bit scary after CMC goes down.
You don't even want any of them.
Exactly. So that scares me even more about it. I just can't do it. Did have Cass just say in the chat, Eckler or DeAndre Swift finishing number 1.
No, I'm taking
Eckler.
Eckler.
I think Eckler could
Eckler.
finish number 1.
2, I have it too.
That's who I have it too also. So I like that take. I like both those guys this year. But let's get into some of our biggest discrepancies. So we're not going to talk about every single running back in this episode, or we'd be here till midnight. So we're going to go through some of the guys we're further apart on, starting towards the top and working our way down. Derrick Henry is someone we are a little bit split on. He's currently being drafted as RB4, 5th overall. Matt and T-Gods, you both have him at 3. Me and Q have him at 5. Why are you guys higher than we are?
The king.
Because he was RB1 by far before he got hurt last year. We were debating on how many weeks it would take for the next running back to take over the number 1 spot.
I forgot about that. That
And,
was crazy.
like, that is ridiculous. He was like 50 or 60 points ahead of number 2. And he was well on his way to rush for over 2,000 yards. So, I mean, I'm not ready to dethrone the king just yet.
Me
But
neither.
the only downside of Derrick Henry is he's not very involved in the passing game, but his rushing ability makes up for
Literally doesn't matter.
that. It doesn't.
Yeah, for Derrick Henry, it really doesn't matter. Q, what were you going to say?
What week did Derrick Henry get hurt?
Maybe
Because-
It was
6.
pretty early. It was like week 6 or 7.
Yeah, I think it was 6.
Hold on. I'm gonna.
No,
you
it was
guys
actually
continue
week
to talk.
8, it looks like, is when he got injured.
All right. And he was how many? Do you know how many points he was actually up over number 2?
I don't know how many
Not
was up over
exactly.
number 2, but I know
It
he
was a
up.
lot.
It was a good amount. I mean, he had a game of 49 in week 2, 25 in week 4, 31 in week 5, and 37 in week 6.
Monster.
So they were just using him a ton. The only reason I have him a little bit lower this year is obviously I'm baking in the risk coming off a major foot injury, still having to recover from that. I think that offense has taken a step back a little bit as well. And he's 28. He's a little bit older, coming off a major injury, always makes me a little bit nervous.
He was 40 points ahead of RB2 at week 8.
Yeah, so that's at least probably 2 games.
Well, I'm looking at the next person would be Jonathan Taylor, and you said week 8. I'm not going to do all that.
Weeks 1 to 8, he had 193 and Eckler had 153.
Wow.
Well, okay.
It's an insane amount of points.
Okay, so he wasn't even number 2. I was going to say, because 3 weeks later, that's when Jonathan Taylor had 50 points. So he probably caught up right there.
Jonathan Taylor was only 1 point below Eckler, so don't get too upset, Q.
I mean, but he still took over. It didn't take that long.
Yeah. I think we're splitting hairs here. I think we're all in agreement. Derrick Henry should still be taken as a top 5 running back this year. I'm just baking in a little bit more of the risk with a couple of guys I have over him a little bit higher. We'll talk about one right now. Next guy on the list, Joe Mixon. He's currently going RB7, 10th overall. I have him at 3. Q and T Gods have him at 6. Matt has him at 7. So why do you guys hate my guy?
No, why do you have him at 3?
It's not that we hate. I have him where he's being drafted.
Right.
You just love him. Why do you love him? Is what we should be asking you.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason not to love him after last season. I think he was unbelievable. Obviously, some injuries may have helped him get to RB4, but I still think he was putting up a solid top 5 season across the board. He ended up getting almost 350 touches, 40 plus catches out of the backfield, and had 16 touchdowns. And on this team that has not gotten any worse, the only thing that's changed for the Bengals is a better O-line. Why would Mixon slow down at all this season? His backup running back is now like 99 instead of 98 years old. He's pretty much Samaje Perine.
Like Chris Evans.
And they have Chris Evans, but he's still listed as RB3 on the depth chart. He has not passed Perine in practice yet. It's Mixon's backfield on probably a top 5 offense in the league and one of the best passing offenses in the league. So there's plenty of room to run. He's a great pass catcher out of the backfield. Anytime they get in close, they're just going to hand it off and let him punch it in. He's going to put up big numbers again this year. I'm all in again. 4 last year. I think 1 spot improvement isn't that crazy.
Yeah,
Okay.
I wrote down that maybe I'd move him up, but now that I'm looking at it, I don't think I'd move up in front of anybody.
I am making a slow trip towards the Mixon train, but I have not reached the steps yet.
Maybe if someone wasn't on this podcast, we would feel more open to say we like him.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, you guys all do like him. I mean, Matt's taking him at ADP. Q and T guys, you both have him above where he's currently being drafted.
Yeah.
I have him at 3. Obviously, it's a little bit higher than consensus, but consensus is never right. So
a little bit.
A little bit of bias as well. Love me some Joe Mixon. Let's continue the bias train with the next guy here on the list, Javonte Williams. He's currently going as running back 12, 20th overall. I have him at 10. Q has him at 12, right where he's being drafted. Matt a little lower at 13. And T-God's all the way down at 16.
Yeah.
So I'll start with Q and Matt. What do you guys think about Javonte Williams this year before me and T-Gods get into the thick of it?
I mean, now that you're asking me today, I'd say I'd move him up 1 spot, but just because Melvin Gordon is like going through some foot shit right now. So I like my case is that I think Melv's going to be just as involved as he was last year. But now that he's dealing with an injury, if that's something he's going to be dealing with all season, obviously Javonte will be as good as we thought he was after last season. But they did bring Russ over, and they didn't bring him over just to hand the ball off. They're going to let Russ cook, and I don't know how much that usually involves handing the ball off. So I think it's going to be a year for the wide receivers on that team.
Well, I mean, there's been plenty of years where there's been a top 10 running back on the Seahawks with Russ at quarterback.
He wasn't cooking, though. They weren't letting him cook those years.
He was still cooking.
He's
But
always been cooking.
Sizzling, grilling.
He's
the
always top
main
9.
reason I have Javante where I have him is like you said, I still think Melvin Gordon's going to be involved. They came out, said it's going to be like right around a 70-30 split. But if he is dealing with this injury starting the season, I do see Javante finishing a bit better than that. I like Javante a lot this year, but always having that guy that could vulture touchdowns here or there, it just leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah, definitely. I'll go next just to defend him a little bit because I'm going to talk about him more later in this episode. Spoiler
course.
alert. Of course I am.
Spoiled it.
Oh, we could all smell it.
Either way, I have him at 10. I just have him a little bit higher than consensus. I just believe in the talent here. And I think last year they were going 50-50 split. There's been rumors it's going to go 70-30 this year. I think it's the Javante season. I think he's going to be the number 1 and Melv's going to be the number 2 instead of 1A and 1B last season. So if he gets that little bit more work, I think he could easily be a top 10 running back this year.
Fair enough.
Sure.
I guess I'll go last because I'm the lowest. So like maybe I'm a little sleep on him. Maybe Sean will sway me later. I don't know, but it just comes down to people that I like more. Like I like James Conner more. He crazy amount of touchdowns. I like Alvin Kamara more. He's just big in the receiving game, and there's not many people on that team. So like, hopefully it's the Kamara show. Like Zeke, I like Zeke over him. I like Saquon has much more upside. Aaron Jones, dog. Like there's just people that I like more. So nothing against Javante. Maybe I'll move him up after Sean tells me about him.
Yeah, I'll talk about him a little bit more later this episode.
What's he going to tell you that he hasn't already said in the last 5 episodes?
Let's
I
find out,
got a
man.
little something cooked up.
Maybe
Middle
I'm
name.
feeling good today.
I like it.
Vulnerable.
Since
Yeah.
you guys just mentioned a couple of the next guys we have on the list, Saquon, you are the highest out of all of us at 12. Q right behind him at 13. I'm next at 14. And then Matt bringing up the rear for the guy he drafted last year at number 4
Tell
overall
TJ to chill out back there.
at 15. Yeah, TJ's going to town over there. He's wilding out.
Yo,
Matt, you want to start off why you hate Saquon after drafting him last year? Top 5.
Oh man, took this guy number 4 overall last year. Just there was 2-3 weeks in a row he just kept getting better and better. I was like, Saquon is finally getting back into shape. And then this freak injury happens where he didn't even have the ball. He was just running, hurt his foot. I don't know. I guess I just have PTSD from that. So I do like Saquon a lot this year. I guess I'm just hating a little bit. He might move up in my ranks. We'll see. But he just, I don't know, man. He did me so dirty last year. It's hard for me to trust him again.
I'm in the same boat. I think I have PTSD with Saquon too. I think I drafted him twice in the same league, and both years is when he got injured. And I was like, I think I'm cursed for drafting Saquon. I just
Such
can't
a
have him on my
bad
team.
feeling.
I do have him at 14, so he's like right where he's being drafted, but the upside is high. So
Very
that's
Imagine.
Q.
Imagine having the backfield of Christian McCaffrey and Barkley. So much ceiling. The ceiling is the roof. But
The roof
that's
is the ceiling.
so scary.
Yeah.
But we've seen him RB1, finish RB1, and I think I saw in the 5 games he played last season with Daniel Jones, he averaged 16.2 points, which sounds like a lot, but I guess it was the 2 games where like he was back.
Yeah, he was
Mhm.
back. When he won him that game in overtime, bro, I was like, Saquon is so back.
I remember you saying that.
I think
Sorry.
he's back, but it's
all
so
right.
scary.
I think he's back too. I don't know. It's just upside. That's all. Like I have him at 12 because, like you said, we've seen him finish at 1, and like
Mhm.
injuries, yes, they suck, but like you just gotta hope and pray.
Yeah,
He went
the
to
Giants
Penn
were very dysfunctional last year, so could easily turn it around this year, at least a little bit from the Mike Glennon games last year.
Ah,
Their O-line got better too. They usually have shitty O-lines, but he went to Penn State and he's a Giant. That's like the worst combo, and somehow I like him. Most likable Penn State guy outside of Booby, I guess.
Booby. All right, Zeke is next on the list. Matt, you are loving some Zeke this year, all the way at 12 as a low-end RB1. You guys
I
right
honestly
behind him.
could move him up.
I was just gonna
Well-
say that. Like when it was my turn, like easily I could move him up. I don't understand why people are hating on him so much this year.
In
don't-
Zeke's 6 seasons in the league, he has 5 top 10 finishes.
I know.
3 of them in the top 5.
Bro,
And
it
the
just-
other one outside the top 10 was 13.
I don't understand it at all. I don't know what the evidence is.
Even last year with all the Pollard hype, he finished 7 and he was playing through like a knee injury, like damn near half the season.
People are just sniffing the Pollard to take over at some point this year. He got smoked today at practice. Ezekiel
Pollard?
did. I don't know if you saw the
Oh,
video.
Zeke did.
I
Yeah,
showed
Zeke
you.
got destroyed by Bradley Chubb.
Are they
Yeah.
tackling each other? It's
Bradley Chubb.
practice.
Bradley Chubb.
He
dumped
gave him a
his
nice
ass.
shoulder.
Yeah, that was wild. I'm the lowest on Zeke. I have him actually where he's currently being drafted, so I'm not necessarily low on him, but I do have him at 15. There's just, like T-God said for the last one, there's just a couple of guys I'm a little bit more confident in their upside. I think Zeke is going to be good this year, but I have Saquon over him. I have Aaron Jones over him. I have guys that have been reliable as well, and I think Zeke's upside is closer to like 7, 8, 9 this year, where I could see Aaron Jones, maybe Saquon as well, having almost top 5 upside. So that might be the reason I'm a little bit lower on Zeke, but Zeke, where he's currently being drafted, should be scooped up every single time. At the beginning of the third round, if Zeke is sitting there, he's someone you have to target.
Gobbling him. No,
They might run him to the ground in his last year, so he's not valuable next year.
If we can't have him, no one can.
All right. Next running back, David Montgomery. He's going 17th overall for running backs, 33rd overall as a whole. I have him at 13, all the way up to 13. Q has him at 15, so he's above ADP as well. Matt and T-God's right where he's currently being drafted at 17. So I guess I'll start. I love me some David Montgomery this year. He's another one I am going to touch on a little bit later, but essentially,
Pause.
essentially, David Montgomery has been extremely talented when he's on the field, and the Bears offense is severely lacking a wide receiver more than it was last season.
It got worse.
Last season, they did have Allen Robinson, even though he was basically a traffic cone out there. They weren't really
He
using him
really was.
like he needed to be used. But now, even without him, this wide receiver core is dwindling, and there's injuries left and right. N'Keal Harry, who they just traded for, is already getting hurt. Byron Pringle's been banged up. So this wide receiver core is ugly. They're going to need to rely on David Montgomery a lot. So I think he's being a little bit slept on in my eyes.
I don't know. This team is just so bad. Sorry, someone. It's just so bad. If Justin Fields goes down, their backup's Trevor Siemian, and I don't think like that team is just dog shit. They might finish with the worst record in the league. But Khalil Herbert, I think I saw that he's gonna play a factor this season too. I think they like him, especially when David Montgomery's out, who's usually out, not usually out, but he has a game or two where he's out of season. So Khalil Herbert, I think he'll play a factor. I do like him though. I think coming into last year, he was slept on. I think he finished. When was it when he finished running back 4? Was that this past season?
That was 2 seasons ago. He was running back 4. And then last season, I think he missed a couple of games and still ended up finishing top 20. He was 19. He missed 4 and like a half games last year.
He's good. This team is so bad. And I mean, you still got Justin Fields too, who's a running quarterback. He might not even be able to have the chance to give him the ball, so just run it himself. I might be moving him. I want to move him down, but like we're in the area now where it's like all these running backs are just the same. The dead zone.
Yeah. I'll defend Dave Montgomery a little bit more later, but let's keep it rolling. Cam Akers. Q and T-Gods, you guys are on the Cam Akers train. Actually, you guys are taking him right around where he's being drafted. It's Q's at 17, a little bit above where he's being drafted at 18. And T-Gods right where he's being drafted at 18. Matt, you're lower with me. You're 20. I'm all the way at 22. I'm on the Cam Akers hate train. Not necessarily hate. 5 spots below where he's being drafted. But I'm just not in love with the upside that everyone's been seeing as like he could still be an RB1. Like he's had injury issues since he's gotten into the league, and he's in a 50-50 timeshare with another extremely talented running back, Darrell Henderson. They like Henderson a lot. It's not just going to be the Cam Akers show where he just takes over. I think this offense is high powered where they both could be relevant this year, but taking him all the way up at 18 when there's guys sitting there like J.K. Dobbins, Josh Jacobs, Gibson, like Akers is a little bit below them for me this year in terms of like what I can see him finishing as.
I mean, in that playoff game against the Bucs last year, he played 81% of the snaps. So maybe they're leaning towards a one running back team, and he did come back from that ACL injury, which is insane in the same season. But I guess the one like story you can try and ride on for Cam Akers to get used a lot more would be Matt Stafford's elbow, but I wouldn't really buy into too much of that. I might also, he's another guy that I consider moving down, mainly because I have Alvin Kamara ahead of him, and it sounds like he's going to play. So Cam Akers might still be in the top 20, but maybe a spot or two lower than where I currently have.
All
Yeah.
right.
I got nothing special to say. It's just the team that he's on. It's literally all it comes down to. Like opportunity.
That offense is
Rams could be
nice.
up. The defense is good. They could be up a lot in games, and they could just run the ball in the second half.
All right, next one, J.K. Dobbins. Put this one on here too, just because I am very high on him. I have him at
You're
17.
high.
Q, you have him at 22, right above where he's being drafted at RB 23. T-Gods, you have him again, right where he's being drafted, and Matt below at 25. I guess I'll start here again. Gotta love me some J.K. Dobbins this year. I'm just a believer in the talent, and I'm a believer that the Ravens have 0 pass weapons. So this is going to be a 100% run first team. Obviously, Lamar is going to do probably half of that running. But when it's not Lamar, we're going to see J.K. Dobbins eating up all of that work. And
or Gus.
Like we mentioned, the last time Lamar was on that MVP level season, Mark Ingram had an unreal season. So J.K. Dobbins picks up some of that role right there. And Gus Edwards, as Q just mentioned, may not be ready for week 1 where J.K. Dobbins has been cleared. Give me some J.K. Dobbins this year to take over. A couple years ago when he was coming in as a rookie, the hype was through the roof. Now that he's been a little bit banged up, people are forgetting about him. His talent is unreal. If he's fully healthy starting the season, he's going to put up numbers.
Buck Allen was better.
Stop. Maybe Justin Forsett.
Buck Allen.
Matt, any reason you hate J.K. Dobbins?
I don't
just the
hate
injury.
J.K. Dobbins. Injury history always, especially with running backs. I mean, every time they get the ball, they're getting hit basically. But injury history, not too big of a fan of. And like you mentioned, even though Mark Ingram had a great season when Lamar was running all over the place, I do think Lamar is going to do a lot of the running. And you said 0 pass weapons. I guess you forgot about Mark Andrews and Rashad Bateman. So I still do think this team is capable of throwing the ball with Lamar, but they definitely are going to rely heavily on the run. I don't know. I feel like they may not try to rush JK into like that bell cow role right off the bat. So all those things combined, I just have him a little bit lower than his ADP. Nothing crazy.
Respect it. All right, Q. Me, T-Gods, and Matt for this next one are all pretty much in the exact same area, right around where he's being drafted at RB 32. So why do you have Rashad Penny all the way up at 27?
Well, first of all, when did they draft Kenneth Walker? Was it in the second round?
Yes, second round, running back off the board.
They're not going to bring in the second round running back to take over Penny. The last 3 games of the season, the last 4 or 5 games, or 3 of 5 games, and that the last end of the season, he scored 25 or more points. I don't know if I guess Russ was playing. It doesn't really matter. The fact is the quarterback isn't any better. It's a lot worse, actually. And Penny seems to be very skilled. Obviously, that's his best season that he's had probably ever in the NFL. But I just think that good rhythm is going to come into the next season. I don't know. There's not much to go off of besides the last couple of games where he could have won you the fantasy championship because he was at like an RB1.
Definitely.
But I'm not buying into all the Kenneth Walker hype. They kept Penny, and Chris Carson's gone, so that only helps his case. God rest his soul. He's not dead, but just as useful.
T-Guys, I don't know what happened to your mic, but it seems like it cut out.
We're good.
All right, we're good.
Yeah, I had to mute it. I just wanted to chime in and say that I loved Chris Carson so much, so much.
He was a very fun running back.
He was the best
most
almost
solid
RB1
ever.
The best almost RB1.
Yep. I'll go right into my Kenneth Walker, why I have him at 30 above his ADP of RB 36. I do like Rashad Penny, and I do believe last year was insane what he was able to do. But Rashad Penny's been in the league for 4 seasons, and he's only played more than 10 games once, and that's being a second and third string running back in those 4 seasons. So he's barely been able to get on the field, and when he has been able to get on the field, he hasn't done much with it, aside from last season, and I don't know how much stock I can put in a 5-game stretch of Rashad Penny putting up some crazy numbers while the Seahawks are out of the playoff race. I think they're going to want to get Kenneth Walker the ball a little bit more. And I think coming in to this season, like Rashad Penny's injury history of all players is one that's scary. I think he's already dealing with a groin injury and he's not playing in the preseason opener. So give me Ken Walker. I'm just a little bit more nervous about Penny. I think if you could ideally try and grab both and just lock up the Seahawks running back, because I think one of these guys is going to finish as a
That sounds like a headache.
running back.
That does sound like a headache.
Between those two.
Well, I think one of them is probably going to end up getting injured, unfortunately, but we'll see. Hopefully they're both healthy and play the season all the way out. All right, let's move on to our favorite RB2 targets, flex targets, and late round running back targets. Let's all do one at a time, and then we'll go through. So Q, start us off. Who is your RB2 target for this season? Your favorite RB2 target?
Clearly, I have a theme of risk here, but I mentioned how much I like Saquon before. I might move him closer to the top 10. I forget where I had 13, but you could take him and he could finish the top 10, and he could also get it hurt. Hopefully, no, this season's the healthiest for all players. I already mentioned that earlier, but I think he's the most skilled player on this team, and Daniel Jones may not be that good of a quarterback, but you can get Saquon, who will take it to the house any play with those quads, the original Quadzilla. But yeah, Saquon, great RB2, almost great RB1.
Definitely has the upside to push in there. T-Gods?
I do like it.
RB2 target. What do you like?
RB2. I talk about him all the time. Josh Jacobs. He's being drafted as the RB20, and like it still baffles me. Like everybody still sleeps on him. Like last year he finished as RB12, and he was only 3 points behind RB10. 3 more fantasy points, he's in top 10. And then 2 years ago he finished as RB8. And like you might say like no receptions, like his ceiling's only so high, but like the year that he finished RB8, he only had 33 receptions. Like it doesn't matter. He was top 12 2 years in a row with 0 receiving touchdowns. He's never had one in his whole career. Never had one.
That's crazy.
But he's still cracked. He's still good. He's still putting up RB1 numbers. And Devontae Adams. Like I think that helps him. I think like defenses are going to focus on him, obviously. So like Josh Jacobs, I think is like could easily make it in the top 10. Like I think people are sleeping on him. I think he's gonna like maybe not like win leagues, but like he's gonna get you somewhere.
It was weird seeing him in the preseason game.
It was nice to see him.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely nice.
I have a weird feeling that the Raiders did that so other teams could get a look at him, since they were shopping him.
Yeah, they did try to retract that. I think their head coach Josh McDaniels came out and was like, "We're not actually shopping Josh Jacobs." Like,
shut up.
I don't know if they're downplaying it. Keep an eye on him if you are doing your draft soon. Just be aware that
business.
He could be traded. But if he's in Las Vegas, I agree. He's a great RB2 target. Matt, forgot that you also were taking Saquon as your RB2 target. So I guess you could follow up on what Q said.
Yeah, Q already basically mentioned everything I wanted to say. Getting Saquon as your RB2 and having that high-end RB1 upside, like we mentioned earlier, he finished number 1 in his career. You just got to hope that he stays healthy. If he is healthy, Daniel Jones isn't going to be like slinging the ball downfield all that much. So the offense is still going to run through Saquon. They don't really have the greatest receiving core. So Saquon is going to be the workhorse, nobody behind him. He's not in a competition for touches, and the ability to finish as an RB1 is better than I think anybody else in that RB2 category.
Yeah, I think Saquon definitely has a lot of upside. I will go next with David Montgomery. Said y'all talk about him later. Here we go. He's going RB17 right now. Before getting injured last season in his first 4 games, he was RB11. So he was an RB1 at that point in time. Came back weeks to 9 and played all the way through week 18. And through that period, he was also RB8. So on average, he was a top 10 running back last season when he was healthy. And in his last full season, he was running back 4, top 5 running back. Dave Montgomery's continued to prove that he's at least a high-end running back 2 with running back 1 upside when he is on the field. And I think his ADP just gets pushed down because the Bears are such a bad team, but he's been on a terrible team no matter what for the last couple of years and still put up numbers. So the volume is there for David Montgomery. I know Khalil Herbert might get a little bit of it this year. And I know they may have a new coach that might try to change things up a little bit. But at the end of the day, Dave Montgomery is probably the top weapon on this team, on this offense, and they're going to need to get him the ball if they want to win any games this year. Give me Dave Montgomery at his ADP as an RB2 all day long. All right, Q. Let's move on to flexes. What do you got?
I just got done loving him. Rashad Penny. All you got to say is if he can continue from what he did the last 5 weeks of the season, being probably the best running back in fantasy, they might run him till the wheels fall off because they may just try to bring in Kenneth Walker a little earlier. So I guess if they just if he can, they're going to be forcing the ball to him. I mean, they not force the ball to him, but he just might be he's going to be the main running back on this team until I guess he decides to fall off, which could hopefully comes later in the season. But if he can be like a I don't know. I'll have to find some type of comparison to him, but Rashad Penny, great late round flex.
I do think if he is healthy, he can put up numbers. On
a team that's trying to find any offense, because I doubt they want to rely on Drew Lock.
Or Geno Smith.
Yeah, even worse.
Yikes.
Yeah.
All right, T-Gods, flex, who we got?
My flexy running back is Kareem Hunt. If I'm going to flex a running back, I'm going to look for one that has receiving upside, and Kareem Hunt is that guy. He's being drafted as RB31. I think people are sleeping on him, but he does tend to get injured, so that's probably a factor at why he's ranked so low. But last year, he played 8 games, and through those 8 games, he averaged 13.8 fantasy points. That's pretty solid, especially at a flex. Rock solid. And 2 seasons ago, he finished as the RB10. Chubb only played 12 games that season, but still, they both finished right next to each other at 11 and 12. They can play together and still both be startable. They're both very good. I've always said that the running backs carry that team, and everybody knows it. You guys agree? The running backs are that team. Draft them. Literally steal him.
Draft him.
Yes, draft Kareem Hunt. As a Kareem Hunt owner that year, Kareem was actually even better when Chubb was there. So he was putting up better numbers in 2020 when they were both on the field. So give me Kareem all day.
Mm-hmm.
Love Kareem as a flex. Matt, who is your favorite flex running back target?
This man does not nearly get enough love as he should, and that is Damian Harris. He is on possibly the worst team that you could be a running back on, but there was a rumor going around that he is on the market. So if he gets traded, he could easily be a starting running back elsewhere on a contender, get the work that he deserves. When the Patriots get this man the ball, he puts up points. He rarely ever plays over 50% of the snap share, which is absolutely ridiculous. Finished RB14 last year with not much receiving upside. All this Ramondre Stevenson hype, I mean, that's all and well, but Damian Harris is the running back to own in this offense, and I believe that 100%. And I do hope he gets traded because he deserves a lot better than that carousel of a backfield.
I agree with everything you just said. I want to know where you want him to go, though.
Where I want him to go?
Yeah.
What team? There's a lot of teams out there. What if he went to the Eagles?
I don't think that would be much better because they stay a running quarterback.
Send him to the Falcons.
Okay.
All right.
I like that.
I'm a Falcons fan.
One place.
I wasn't expecting. I always forget about that team.
He was like, "How could you do that to my guy, Cordaro?"
That's funny.
All right. I will wrap up the flex here. I am taking AJ Dillon as my flex. He's currently going as RB26, which makes him fall in the flex category. Running backs are truly not ideal for flex candidates because they're a pretty shallow position, so it's tough to have that deep of a running back core. But where AJ Dillon's going, if you can get him as your RB3 or RB4, he's a very rock solid flex. As the season wore on last year in weeks 9 through 18, he was averaging 15.8 touches per game, and he was running back 12 during that time span. So AJ Dillon was a low end RB1 last year in the second half of the season. defenses are getting tired. This man is built like a truck. So he's like, you don't want to tackle AJ Dillon in November at Lambeau Field. Like, you're just going to let him run you over or run past you. So he's going to put up numbers. He's going to see a lot of that early down work again this season. Obviously, Aaron Jones is there, and he's going to take a lot of the pass game away from him. But if AJ Dillon's getting 15 touches a game, like I said, he could still be just as good as Aaron Jones in this offense. And with the lack of wide receiver options there, we're probably going to have to rely a little bit more on the run game this year too. So AJ Dillon, very solid flex.
I agree. I kept him in my keeper league.
Good keep.
I have faith. I have faith.
F you.
All right, Q. Late round target. Who are you taking?
We just talked about him. That's why I said it was funny, but I'm going to go with the ninth-year breakout, Cordero Patterson, who for 14 weeks was running back 7. I think coming back to Atlanta is probably his best situation because he probably would have died off if he went to some other team or maybe wasn't even signed by another team. But they don't have Calvin Ridley. They don't have Russell Gage. They just have a rookie at wide receiver. And who else do they have?
Brian
Pitts.
Edwards, who's already been
How can I forget Pitts? But the only stat that I can use that maybe would gain him some relevancy outside of, like, I think the beginning of the season, he'll be relevant because they only have a rookie running back. So I don't think that he will be used as much, but at the same time, Patterson could be used as a wide receiver. So it's sort of a cheat code. In Mariota's last season with the Titans, running backs averaged 8.2 targets per game. So having a running back that's also half receiver, basically, I think that he will still be extremely involved, and you could possibly have a running back / wide receiver in your flex or RB2 area. I don't know if you put him at RB2, but
yeah, where he's going, like, it's definitely worth the risk of taking Patterson. Even if he falls off, it's worth taking him where he's being drafted. T-Gots, late round target, who you got?
My late round target. Now, this one is a little weird.
I like it. I like it.
It's Alexander Madison, and that's because if Dalvin Cook goes down, you are getting an RB1. You just are.
Yep.
He's like ridiculously good. I don't understand why he's still on that team. Like, he could be making so much money somewhere. He started four games last year. He started week 3. He had 26 rushes for 112 yards, 6 receptions for 59 yards. Week 5, 25 rushes, 113 yards, 7 receptions, 40 yards, and a receiving touchdown. Week 12, 22 rushes, 90 yards, and a touchdown. 3 receptions for 34 yards. And in week 16, he was coming off an injury, and it was versus the Rams, but he still had 13 rushes, 41 rushing yards, and a touchdown. And 3 receptions for 29 yards. So, like, he's touching the ball all the time. Even with, like, J. Jeff and Thielen, because Thielen's so good, Matt. So, like, even with all these people,
Thielen slander is getting out of hand.
He's still
it might be.
Alexander Madison is still getting so many touches. He's still scoring touchdowns. Like, he's a very good player, and I think he's worth having on your team.
For sure.
I like
Sean,
it a lot.
Just to keep it in the theme with the Vikings, because slander the Vikings players. I saw something that said if the Vikings had every last 2 minutes removed from every game last season, they'd be 15-2. So Kirk is a great quarterback. They just had a terrible
sucks.
They had a terrible coach and a bad defense. So
He can't close out the games either. He's mid.
They got rid of the coach.
They lost games because of him too, throwing picks and whatnot.
15-2 Kirk. That would be, and they're about to win the division this year.
They might win the division this year for sure. There's definitely a shot. I like the Vikings this year in terms of that, at least. Matt, late round target. Who you got?
Late round target, my boy, James Robinson. Do not forget James Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
Just because he's coming off this Achilles injury, all this Travis Etienne hype. I get it. Travis Etienne was hurt last year. We didn't get to see him, but he is supposed to be a great player. But when James Robinson comes back and he is fully healthy, there is no way in hell that the Jaguars just completely forget about him. I think at least J-Rob and Etienne end up splitting work. I could see James Robinson becoming the early down back. They use Etienne maybe for like passing downs or whatever, and they kind of split work. But even then, James Robinson is one of the best pure rushers in the league, in my opinion. He's just a little bowling ball, and he really is. I was watching his highlights the other day. I was like, yo, this man is a menace. And
he is good.
yeah, when he comes back and he's fully healthy, he is going to be involved in this offense, no doubt, and he will be able to put up numbers. And if you're able to get him late in your drafts as a steal because people are worried about injuries and his involvement, absolutely snag him up.
Snag him up. I will wrap up the late round targets. Darrell Henderson Jr. He's currently going RB 42, and Henderson has essentially become an afterthought with Cam Akers now back in the front seat, I guess, of this backfield. But why are we all jumping ship on Henderson? This man in 10 games last year averaged 15.7 fantasy points per game. He was a true RB1 for the first half of the season. He may have some injury issues, but Cam Akers has probably just as many injury issues. And it seems like they're splitting reps 50-50 right now. I know Q mentioned earlier the playoffs where Cam Akers played 80% of the snaps, but Darrell Henderson was still coming off of an injury at that time as well. I think that was one of his first games back. He will still be a part of this high-powered and efficient offense. And I think he's the better pass catcher of the two as well. Cam Akers may get the running work, but Matt Stafford's going to dump it off to somebody, and it's going to be Darrell Henderson. We've seen even Theo Riddick back in the day be a top 30 running back in a Matt Stafford-led offense. So give me Darrell Henderson Jr. all day at RB 42. Cam Akers goes down. Obviously, he has tremendous upside. We saw it last year. But even with him there, I think he has his own value. Right now, Darrell Henderson's being drafted after 2 defenses and a kicker. Put some respect on my man. Grab him late in drafts before you pick that defense. It won't be worth it. Trust me.
How is Amir Abdullah still in the league, but not Theo Riddick?
Theo Riddick's head looked like a light bulb.
Oh my God.
No need to roast my guy. All right. Let's do some bold takes before we do some trivia. It's been a little long here. So Q, start us off. Bold take. What you got?
Skip me. I honestly did not read this part.
All right.
Oh
Q,
my
come back to the
God.
bold take later.
I got you.
Matt. Bold take.
Sean's boy, DeAndre Swift,
Yes,
finishes a top 5 running back this year. Before he got hurt last year, I'm pretty sure he was already in the top 5. Don't be afraid that the Lions got a couple new pass catchers. Amon broke out. They now have DJ Chark, and I forget who else they added.
Jameson Williams.
Jameson Williams, that's right. But this offense is going to run through DeAndre Swift. Jared Goff isn't the greatest passing quarterback. He's going to be looking for a safety blanket, and that's most likely going to be DeAndre Swift, if not TJ Hawkinson. Swift is one of the better pass-catching backs out of the backfield, PPR animal. And we saw last year, early in the season, he could easily take a little dump off 50 yards to the house. So as long as he stays healthy, I like his involvement. Volume's going to be there. No shame to Jamal Williams. Also love him too. But this is DeAndre Swift's backfield, and he is going to take it and run with it.
Love it. Love it. Love it. T-Gods, what do we got?
So my bold take is that Aaron Jones, who's currently being drafted as the RB12, finishes as a top 5 running back.
Spicy.
Is it
Fair.
spicy though?
Look,
I think
Only because of AJ Dillon.
Hasn't he finished
Fair.
top
He could
5
easily
before?
finish top 5.
I'm sure he has. I haven't checked, but
Yeah.
like we
Go
talked
ahead.
about last week, how the Packers offense, like their weapons is a little bit like not a little bit, like very, very mid. They're not very good. So I think if this team wants to have any success, they're gonna have to go through the running backs. And yeah, like I'm sure AJ Dillon does outrush Aaron Jones again because he did it last year. He's probably gonna do it again. But I think Aaron Jones is gonna be more of like a Austin Eckler this year. Like I think he's gonna see a lot of receiving work. Like last year, he had 52 receptions with 6 receiving touchdowns. And between MVS leaving and Devontae leaving, it's 224 targets just out there for anybody to pick up. And I think Aaron Jones could easily see like 50 of those. Like I do think he's going to be catching a lot of passes. I think he's going to be pushing like 70 receptions, maybe more. And I think those receiving touchdowns, those 6 that he had last year, I think that could easily go up too. Like PPR, I should say. Like all of this is for PPR. Like I do think he'll be top 5 in PPR. Maybe not in standard, but like he's going to be seeing a lot of receiving work this year. I truly believe that. So that's why top 5 PPR, and you're drafting at 12, even if he's not top 5, like top like 6, 7. That's
Yeah.
still like if he's still there as the RB12, like give me him.
Scoop.
Scoop.
And if you're still playing in the standard league, please grow up.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least half PPR.
That's still bad.
Nah, half PPRs are all right.
You value the
I'm
wrong
a
things.
PPR
Give me
guy,
a full point.
Yeah, you value the wrong things.
I understand some people like he caught the ball and went backwards 3 yards. Why does he get a full point?
Give me 2 point
He gets
PPR.
0.7.
Well, 0.7. Yeah, if you are playing decimals, you're right.
Yeah, grow up. Decimals and PPR.
I like it. All right. My bold take last year, I predicted Joe Mixon to finish top 5 on our running back episode, and he finished number 4. So let's try and replicate that. But obviously not going to do Joe Mixon again. We already know I'm a big fan. Give me Javonte Williams squeaking into the top 5 running backs this season.
You told me Aaron Jones was spicy.
I know this is spicy. Russell Wilson at quarterback, Melvin Gordon already dealing with a foot injury and an overall better offense this season. Javonte's upside is huge, and I think he's going to have a big year. And as we mentioned a little bit earlier as well, we've seen running backs thrive with Russell Wilson at the helm, and I think Javonte will do just that. I think this whole offense is just going to be upgraded, and the focal point is going to be the passing game. When you have Russell Wilson back there tossing 50-yard bombs to I almost said KJ Hamler, Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, and then maybe KJ Hamler on top. That's going to be the main focal point. Give me Javonte Williams coming out of the backfield. He's also a very good pass catcher, and Russell Wilson is not afraid to dump it off to running backs. We've seen that in the past as well. So Javonte Williams, top 5. Spicy take, but I like him this year a lot. So give me it.
All right.
Q, did you have one, or we want to go to
Yeah, I can structure one together. I think that Leonard Fournette, I'm going against what my team is with Matt, finishes outside the top 10.
Come on.
They just lost 2 of their centers, and Mike Evans is he's going to be one of his main targets. This is me just throwing it together. They did draft a rookie running back who apparently could have some sort of role in this offense. They also brought in Julio, of course, who may be a top 25 wide receiver.
Oh my God, stop. Now the takes are coming hot.
It's all right. At least we kept Fournette in the 8th round.
So, yeah, maybe he'll finish outside the top 10 for everyone else. Matt and I may finish top 5. I don't know how that scoring would work, but Fournette,
we get special points.
I wasn't too high on him until I invested in him. So I guess that's how fantasy works.
All right, we shall see. All right, let's do some trivia before we get out of here. If you guys have any running back questions in the chat or any questions at all, obviously feel free to drop them. We will answer them after. But Q, trivia, let's go. What do we got?
We're going to start off a little simple here. All right, are you all ready, Matt? You ready?
I was born ready, bro.
So last year, who led running backs in receptions? Who led running backs?
This is such a hard question.
I feel like this should be easy.
This is so easy.
Maybe just for fun,
already written.
Maybe just for fun, tell me how many receptions.
I know how many receptions a specific running back had, but I don't know if that was the most.
Chat, play along. I see you're here.
I have both answers. I completely guessed on how many catches he had, but he had to have had the most.
He had to have had the most.
Had to have. I know we're on the same page, Steve.
He had to have.
He had to have the most. You're right.
You have an answer?
Hold on, I'm writing it down.
Danny Woodhead.
I know how many it was.
And look at who's fucking asking the question.
Basically, Danny Woodhead.
Basically? You got an answer?
Yeah, I got an answer.
All right. So the amount of catches was 74.
I knew it wasn't him. I knew it wasn't him.
I said
I didn't
79.
say anybody. Oh, okay.
I know, but I know it wasn't him because
the guy's name was 74. The player's name was Najee Harris.
See?
What?
Yeah.
I knew I was wrong. I put Eckler and I knew he had 70. And I said, somebody definitely have more than 70.
All right.
Cordero Patterson.
Any Patterson.
No way.
Matt, that was a wild guess. You were too confident for guessing him.
The oldest running back. What's catches,
it was
I
a
guess.
Q question, bro. He's fucking.
There are no more of those questions. I told you.
They have been getting less and less bias.
Patterson had 52. I wrote Eckler, and I knew I wasn't confident. I knew I was forgetting somebody.
Nah,
Eckler had 70, like I wrote. T-Gods, who did you
Oh,
guess?
how did I
Eckler.
not know that? He was catching like 10
Yeah.
passes a game.
All right.
Yeah.
So the rest
Najee
of
Harris
these
had that one game with 14 catches, and that
The
puts him
rest-
over the top.
the rest of these questions are all multiple choice, so you have one of 3 or 4 or 5 answers. You'll see. So the next question here: how many weeks straight did Jonathan Taylor have an RB1 finish? Not finish RB1, but he was an RB1.
A top 12 finish.
Yes. Your choices are 11 weeks, 7 weeks, 14 weeks, or 9 weeks.
All right.
How many weeks in a row did he have an RB1 finish?
Lock it in. I'm guessing.
Me
I'm
too.
between two. I'm just going to guess as well. I'm locking it in.
Everyone locked.
I'm locked.
It was uno.
Oh, that was
11.
my other
14.
guess. I was between the two. I was between 9 and 11.
Bias
It's more-
question. Bias question.
More RB1 finishes than CMC in 2019 and Gurley in his GOAT year. I don't know which one that was.
2018,
A bit more
2017.
consistent, but not as
yeah.
poppy.
Definitely not as poppy.
McCaffrey was insane that year.
Which one of these are you guys ready?
Yep.
Mhm.
Which one of these running backs last year led the league in fumbles? The choices are Dalvin Cook, Melvin Gordon, Antonio Gibson, or Nick Chubb.
I think I know who it is. I'm between two, but I think I know who it is.
Melv, Chubb, Gibson.
I'm not confident in any of these answers.
I'm not
I locked
confident,
mine
but
in.
I'm writing it because I hate him.
I
Let's
locked mine
go.
in.
Ah.
It was not Dalv. It
All
was
right,
not.
cool. That was who I was between.
It was not Chubb.
Okay.
It was not Melvin Gordon. It was
I
Antonio
got
Gibson.
it!
Yay.
We all got it.
Let's
I remember him
go.
having fumbling
I remember
issues
he,
last year.
he was in the doghouse for a little bit.
Yeah. McKissick. Scrumptious.
All right. Next question. There's only 2 more. This one and one more. Who had the longest rush of the season last year? Choices are Nick Chubb,
Yes, Depu was Gibby. Sorry.
Justin Jackson, Austin Eckler, or Jonathan Taylor. Longest rush of the season last year.
Repeat the
Say
first
that
two.
again.
Nick Chubb and Justin Jackson.
Who were the last two?
Austin Eckler and Jonathan Taylor. Or Travis Homer.
I know that this bull had a long ass
Stop.
run.
You did not
so
just
I'm
throw Travis
going with
Homer in
it.
there.
I will give you a hint. Travis Homer did have a very long run last year.
But he was not in the top.
How does
He
that
was not the
help
top.
us? That's
This is in
not
the
a
top.
hint.
Peyton Hillis.
Y'all have an answer?
Yeah.
Let's
I
see what
wrote
the
my answer
chat put
down.
real quick.
I wrote my answer
Chubby-
down just because one of these sounded like they weren't like the others.
It
One of them
was
did.
JT with an
I know.
86. Matt, it was against you too. Remember the Monday night game when I was down a lot and I had JT and someone else in first drive of the game, first couple plays of the game, he broke one for like 86 and a touchdown.
I
wanted
should have
to
known it was
blow my
biased.
brains out.
I should
I
have
should have
known
known
it was
biased too. We should have known.
Right when
I
I
was
said
worried.
Jonathan Taylor questions.
I remember Justin Jackson had a long
Yeah,
ass
he
run,
was like
so I
number
just wrote
2.
his name.
Yeah, I just wrote Justin Jackson because I was like, bro, that name in this group of running backs just sounds so off. Like he had to have broke one for no reason.
And last second, I did change Travis Homer with Eckler. It was Travis Homer I had originally, but I literally said 2 players on the same team. You still guessed one of them. Justin Jackson and Eckler. Okay, last question here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Which running back that finished number 1 overall in points scored over the last 6 years scored the most points? So out of these 6 running backs who finished 1 overall in the last 6 years, who had the most points? We have Jonathan Taylor, Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon, Gurley, and David Johnson, all the way back in 2016. That's 6 years.
Yeah.
I hope
wrote it
I'm right
before you
because I
even
wrote
said
it. So did I. And I hope that I'm right because if I'm not, I'm going to feel
think
really
it's this
stupid.
bull.
I think I only remember this because I did all the numbers for like that bracket episode. So like it's been stuck in my head.
Are you all an answer? It was Christian McCaffrey.
Yes.
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 But do you know who
yes.
had the least amount?
Matt, who did you write?
I wrote Gurley.
JT.
The least
Yeah,
amount.
JT did have the least. You didn't
Yeah.
give Matt a second. Whatever.
Matt, who did you say?
Gurley.
Gurley's a good guess. Gurley was a beast, but
He was so
McCaffrey
good.
is who I wrote. Like just from doing that. Like, I'm pretty sure he had the second best season ever behind LT's like 31 touchdowns or
That
whatever it
was
was.
absurd.
David Johnson had the second most. He had 408. CMC had 471. So it's still big ass.
That's
Yeah,
not
gap,
even
but
71 was
close.
insane. Just an insane amount. Any questions in the chat before we get out of here? Doesn't seem like it.
Please,
Dave and
God, no.
Cass,
I got to pee
thanks.
so bad.
Thanks for playing along with the trivia. Guess that is a wrap. We did just hit an hour at this point. So it's a wrap for the running back rankings episode. Thanks for dropping by next Monday. We definitely want you here because not only will we be breaking down tight ends, but we will also be airing our live Super Fantasy Bros Redraft League draft to see who, if anyone out there, can beat the Bros. 12 teams should be a lot of fun. We'll probably be live for a few hours, so probably going to have to go off the rails doing an entire episode and then a draft. It'll be a lot of fun. Make sure you are here for that. If you're still here on Twitch, throw us a follow and turn on notifications so you don't miss us when we're live. Throw us a sub on YouTube as well. All of our content is put there too. Spotify, Apple Music for the audio version, and of course, all social medias, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Look up Super Fantasy Bros. You will find us. Cass said, go Pats.
Ew.
I don't know what's up with that.
He's fried.
But
You
on
got
that note, go
packed.
Birds.
Go
See you
Birds.
guys on Monday.
Sundays are for the birds.
Aha.